Welcome to Dentaverse, Beyond the Brush, where we drill deep into the future of dentistry. I'm your host, Leila Ibrahimli, here to guide you through the cavities of innovation, from AI root canals to blockchain braces. It's time to floss your mind and brighten up your knowledge. Bite down, hold tight, and let's explore the dental universe. Welcome everyone, this is the fourth episode of Dentaverse Beyond the Brush, and today I'm joined here with Dr. Jasper Thoolen. Dr. Jasper Thoolen is a dentist from the Netherlands, and he will actually introduce himself a bit later, but let me tell you my side of the story. I first met Dr. Jasper during Ideas Cologne in March, and we had a really nice discussion. I actually went to his presentation about virtual smile design, and I was quite shocked why a dental presentation would start with rock music and someone playing a guitar. But after that, the dots were connected, and I actually personally learned a lot from that presentation, even though I don't have any dental background, but I had a deeper understanding of the symmetry and why a certain smile is better than visually more appealing than the other one, and why also at the end of the day, everyone wants a healthy and beautiful smile. The next encounter that we had with Dr. Jasper was during EP04 Congress. It was held in Amersfoort in Netherlands, together with Karma Philosophy. Dr. Miguel Stanley was one of the guest speakers, Dr. Nurjan Yilmaz, and some other also great dentists. And there was our second introduction, second talk. And after that, we decided that, okay, we need to do a podcast episode. And this is a topic that I want to bring to everyone's attention. Today, we will talk about next generation dentistry. This might sound a bit too optimistic or too utopian and also too abstract, but I genuinely believe that you will gain something from this episode. I truly believe it will be a very interesting talk, and I don't want to disclose fully what we will talk about, but I promise it will be interesting. So first off, to kick things, Jasper, I would like for you to introduce yourself, and who is Jasper Thoolen for those who don't know you?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for inviting me. Like from the first moment I got in touch with you guys, we had a very nice and informal way of communication, and so this podcast is going to be the same as we had before. So I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, who am I? I'm just a young dentist from the Netherlands. Basically, is what I am. I graduated in 2016 at the Radboud University in Nijmegen. And right now I have my own practice in Oosterwijk, which is a little bit more in the south of the Netherlands. And we have a referral practice in the more complicated, prehensive kind of dentistry, I would say. So that means that we do, like every dental specialism we have in the clinic. So we can do like the extensive prosto treatments, implantology, surgery, perio, ortho, like everything we are doing within the same building. And that's also how we approach dentistry. We try to approach it from a very comprehensive, holistic way. And in doing this dentistry and in following a lot of courses and making sure like my knowledge was increased and my training was increased. And at one point I started giving courses and lectures, and I noticed that a few guys around who are all about the same age, we just had the same problem, and it is we can literally buy everything that we want except time. So at that point, we just figured out, okay, guys, we can do all this education and all these lectures and this composite trainings. We can all do this by ourselves, but why not do it together? Because probably that will save us all some time. And that's how Karma Dentistry was born, which is a big part of what I do. Karma Dentistry is an education platform. We started in 2019 with 5 people. At this very moment, we are with 9 people, so 9 ambassadors. Not only providing education and courses and lectures, but also like developing products and making sure we are gearing up for dentistry in the next 40 years or so. And yeah, that's basically what I do.
Thank you very much. And also before this podcast, I actually went to Karma's website, and the first line that I saw in big font was Karma stands for dentistry as it should be. Dentistry followed by the word of Hippocrates. Can you please explain what that means and how it got started?
Yeah, so the very first thing you have to understand from dentistry in the Netherlands is that we have a fixed pricing system. So basically that means that if we are doing like a filling, for instance, right? If we're doing a restoration, then there's one fixed price for that restoration. It doesn't matter if we do this in 5 minutes, it doesn't matter if we do it in 1 hour, but like the honorarium for this restoration is always the same. So that means that if you want to increase your revenue in the dental chair, you just have to make sure you do a lot of procedures, right? And we believe that is a problem. So at one point I was working together with Freek in a clinic, and we just looked to each other and said, no, this is not the way dentistry should be, right? It was like an industry floor. Like people are just coming in and restoration go, right? People coming in, restoration go. It was not healthcare. It was not because we are treating people. Like we are not treating in some mechanical robotic way. We are dealing with actual people, and that was not the case. And we believe that if you want to do dentistry right, you need time to do so, right? So that means that if you want more time for your procedures and to help people and to listen to them and to do a good diagnosis, do a good anamnesis, that needs time. And for us in the Netherlands, there's no way you can compensate that time. So if you want to do dentistry right, it has to come from the heart. Right? There's this saying, you need some serious balls to do your dentistry right in the Netherlands, because it does mean that you will not earn as much money as the dentists that do a lot of procedures. So usually the dentists that are doing great work, showing these beautiful cases, those are also the dentists that don't make that lot of money, right? And that's the crazy part about it. And so that's why we chose we should dentistry the way it should be. And the only reason why is because it gets me into bed every night with a good feeling. Because I have the idea that I actually help somebody. I did my procedures right. I did my dentistry right. Like every dentist had this very moment in time, and I do firmly believe everybody knows the exact name of this patient for him or her. So I did a restoration, and I knew it was not the way I wanted it. I knew there was this little bubble in it, right? So I was just I was lying in my bed, and I said, yeah, there's this goddamn bubble in it, and I know that this will gain problems eventually. So I said, oh, what do? Do I leave it? And I couldn't sleep for the whole night. So the day after, I just called this patient, hey, you have to come back because I don't trust this feeling of mine. So I did it again. I renewed it. I did it for free. And that just gave a good feeling, right? And that's basically why we chose the name Karma in the first place. If you have like somebody coming into your chair with a problem and you just say, you go for a quick fix, this will come back to you, right? And eventually the problem gets even bigger. So if you want to make sure problems are solved, you have to do this from a totally different perspective. So it's not a symptomatic way of treating patients. It's a holistic and a causal way of treating patients. You have to treat the cause and not the symptom. And that's the very thing that we try to change for people, to people to understand this. Because if you are treating the cause, which a lot of times don't have to do anything with dentistry, then you are actually helping people. And we also believe that's the only way to make sure that we can, in a decade or so, still pay for our healthcare. But I'm not sure in how it is in the rest of the world, so a little bit, but in the Netherlands, we are going to a moment in time where we actually cannot pay for our healthcare anymore, right? Because it's just too much. And we noticed this in the clinic as well. We have a shortage of dentists in the Netherlands, and we have an increasing amount of work we have to do. So with this in mind, and with the system in mind that I explained before, you can imagine that's a big problem, right? Because people are even doing more procedures in less time, and that decreases the quality of dentistry.
So if you look at it, it's like dentistry is becoming more and more industrialized. You know, as you said, it's just like mass manufacturing of like people coming in, fixing and going away and on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. That just because like that's the way, let's say, system is built. First of all, I would like to thank you for explaining it, because now looking at the same sentence, karma stands for dentistry as it should be. I have like a totally different like understanding of like what the sentence tries to convey. Like, as you said, because you pose the dilemma, the current dentistry, and in a sense also like slow dentistry or holistic dentistry. And also before recording of this podcast, we also talked a little bit, and you actually said that karma is not about like dentistry per se or surgery per se, but it's about just like, as you said, also healthcare in general. Can you, like, I want you to expand more on this topic, because I know that there are not that many people voicing this issue and raising awareness. So let's like try to delve deeper, like healthcare in general. Taking it slow, taking it holistic. What does it mean for doctors? What does it mean for patients? How do we get there, and how do we develop that sense of understanding?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I do believe it's the future of healthcare in general. Well, it should be the future of healthcare in general on a few different levels. So first of all, like research shows that if you're actually treating like a disease rightfully and you're treating the cause, then the disease goes away and it saves a lot of money, right? So eventually, if people are treating only the symptoms, so you see cavity, right? You feel the cavity, okay? Then you see like a little something broken down, and then you just fix it. And all these little fixes all together in pricing is way more than just treating the cause once for all. And this is something that has to do with a mindset of patients as well. So René Descartes, right, a philosopher, he has this divide of body and mind, right? This is his concept. And for some reason, people try to bring their mouth to the dental clinic as if it is their car to a garage. So they are going to sit in the chair goes back, open their mouth. They are just totally divided from what's happening here with the rest of their body and their mind, right? And they say, okay, we see this and this and this and this. This is the proposed treatment plan. They say, yeah, just do whatever is necessary. Just think about that last sentence, or just whatever is necessary. It shows that they have no interest and absolutely no understanding of what's actually happening in their mouth, right? They have no interest or what's happening about the diseases they probably got. So that's also working in a way that, okay, let's just treat it and then go away. So if some patient comes in the chair and they show 2 cavities on day 1, then 1 year later they have 3 cavities more, and then 1 year later they have 5 cavities more. Like, the treatment should not be taking the burr and fixing those cavities. No, the treatment should be, okay, putting up the chair, say, hey, what's the reason why these cavities are there in the first place? Because we know if the diet is good, if the lifestyle is healthy, if there's not that much sugar involved and people have a proper cleaning, there is absolutely no reason why there should be cavities, right? So if they clean properly, if they have a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle, and still those cavities are coming, that means that there's another reason for that. And that's the way we should treat healthcare. We should dive into that. And we should connect with all the other healthcare professionals as well. And we should discuss about this. Okay, this is what we are seeing. How do these cavities come there in the first place? Right? Those are the questions we should ask. And not taking the burr and just fix them and go away for the next patient. But this needs time. This costs a lot of time. I try to explain even to our practice managers that when I'm doing my treatments on a day, like I'm most of the time in the evenings, I still have a lot of communication with other professionals, not only in dentistry, but in general healthcare and other specialists about patients. Like what about like cardiovascular kind of stuff, right? I think it's a different way of approaching healthcare. It's just to zoom out and not immediately treat the cause. And we see crazy results with this, right? Because at one point you start understanding the problems, and then you can treat it with stuff that's not that mechanically dentistry that we all think of when we think about dentistry. We all think about restorations, right? And making cool stuff. But a big part of dentistry is coaching psychology and making sure that the cause has been treated. So and this is like a big leap, a big step forward, I think, is that when it comes to supplementing, for instance, for vitamin D and vitamin D3 and vitamin K2 and in as well implantology as ortho. So when you think about it, it's such a logical thing, right? But for some reason, we only now think about this stuff. Right? If somebody doesn't have a healthy body and a healthy metabolism, and we see a very big shortage in vitamin D3, like how on earth should the bone even grow in this implant if the bone cannot grow into the implant, right? And the very thing that we all do as dentists, then we say, no, it's a bad implant. Oh, it's a bad surgeon. No, it's a bad procedure, right? While it's actually the patient and the metabolism of this patient that's the cause of the problem, right? And this is a totally different view of healthcare in general, and it's the way it should be. And the fun thing is that, and that's why I love like stuff and tools and technology like Dentaverse and all the other AI bots. It drives to a more interdisciplinary way of working in healthcare, right? As soon as you see the problem is a bit bigger or the problem is lying somewhere completely else outside of dentistry, it drives you to communicate with all the other healthcare professionals. That's how we should healthcare in the first place.
I totally agree. To be honest, while you were like talking, especially making that analogy of like coming to a dental chair as if like you bring your car to garage, I was doing self-reflection, and because I've been to dentists a lot, although I'm young, like I've been to dentists a lot. I have like 4 teeth without like nerves. I got my like wisdom tooth like taken out. I had my braces, etc. Every year I go for a dental like checkup, and like there is something that like they need to fix, etc. And I always like, for me, it's like, okay, just another pit stop that I will just go, and I hope in 2 hours like I'll just get out of here and I don't like remember the pain, and I know my mouth will be a little bit swollen, but the doctor said it will go away in 4 hours, and I just move on. And like also like during PT forward, like when, for instance, Miguel Stanley was talking about like, for instance, you put an implant technically is another artificial object made from metals, made from different materials, etc. And you put it next to your bone marrow, which also exists in your mouth as well as in your knees, and etc. And you actually never give a thought about like how would that excess of mercury or a titanium or whatever the metal is will affect my body. Or the same with Dr. Nurjan Yilmaz, like making an analogy of like top level performance athletes with dentistry, like also as you mentioned, just bringing an interdisciplinary approach and maybe saying like, okay, maybe your cardiovascular state is not the best. To be honest, yesterday I went for a blood test. I was getting my medical certificate, and I especially told my doctor, can you please check for vitamin D3 and K2? Because I know I followed, like, I just heard the lecture that it may be important, and I'm just curious to see what it is. And like, I would have not got this knowledge if I wouldn't come and like talk to you and etc. And I know that it's not a widespread opinion. As you said, like, it takes time. And if a normal procedure takes time, this approach even takes more time. And there's also this concept of like short-term and long-term gratification. I think, as you said, like those small fixes in the long run cost more than just taking it slow and fixing it from the first time. But I think also like as humans, like ourselves, just like also looking at my attitude, etc., it's just that we always want that, like the quickest, fastest way of getting it done, like doing whatever is necessary, as you said, and we don't actually understand how it will like, intrinsically, we know that, yes, obviously, I need to also take care of my diet, take care of my cleaning, this and that. But you're like, okay, hey, but today, can you just fix my caries and I just move on, put something, take the black thing out, put something white in it so it looks like I don't have anything, and I just move on. And like, what I want to ask is like, what actually brought you to this kind of thinking? Like, is there something that happened in your life or in your practice, or who were the people or the books, etc.? Like, what influenced for you to literally tell yourself, like, Jasper, like, you are in a hamster wheel, you need to stop, you need to get out the big picture and just like try to be a contrarian thinker?
Yeah, good question. Actually, it's a really good question. So first of all, I think my journey in dentistry has a lot to do with it. And my journey in dentistry started, well, first of all, when I started my dental, and when we went to dental school. I never liked dentistry. I hated it at one point, especially in the first few years. And the reason why I started doing dentistry is like 100% because of my dad, because he's a dentist as well. And I never really admitted it that I was doing that. I always said, no, I love dentistry. And like my dad, he said, hey, are you sure? Because it's a hard profession, right? Especially if you want to do this right. And my dad is a pretty good dentist as well. He said, hey, are you sure you want to do this? I said, yeah, I want to do this ever since I was a little kid. So I went to dental school, getting into a sorority, doing every like commission and everything you can possibly think of. And I was busy with everything except dentistry. And at one point, my dad said, because I had some delay in my dentistry, in my dental school, and he said, okay, if you want to do this, just do it, but I'm not going to pay for it anymore. So then I started my first company. So we were selling like made-to-measure suits and shirts and ties and that kind of stuff. And that grew. And then eventually we actually had a physical shop within the city center. And that got me to a point that I had to choose. So, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to proceed with my company, or do I actually want to do dentistry? And I just didn't know. And in 2013, I went to Boston together with my dad, and we went to the ISPRD, like the International Symposium of Periodontical Restorative Dentistry. And there were a few guys giving lectures, like Christian Coachman, Gillick Budel, Mark Frediani, David Garber. All these guys, they were showing dentistry in such a way that I was sitting in the audience and I said, wow, like that's it. That's it right there. Right? That's my moment. I clearly remember this. That was in 2013. So 2016. So this symposium is organized every 3 years. And in 2016, I was sitting in the same room, looking to the same guys, because more or less you always see the same speakers at the symposium, which is cool because it always gives some kind of a status quo. And I was just graduated as a dentist, and I noticed that like when I was a student, I understood probably 20% of what was going on, but as a dentist, I understood probably 80% of what was going on. Right? And then it was 2016. In 2019, I just did my first lecture for a big audience. And not only did I understood everything that was going on stage, what they were talking about, but there were some points where I said, no, that's not true. I don't agree with you. Right? 2022, which was last year, we went there as well. And now we are working with a big number of speakers from that meeting together with Karma. So we actually know them. They're on my telephone. And when I look back to that symposium, for me, it's always like this very moment in time that it evaluates my way in dentistry. Because we started I went there the first time as a student, then as a dentist, then as a lecturer, and then as a collaborator. And seeing these guys approaching dentistry from this specific point of view, like Christian's DSD concept drives you to this kind of mindset, right? All these guys are handling more or the same mindset. So I got in that manner in a very early stage of my career, I guess. And the second thing is that, so I play guitar besides my dentistry, and I always played in rock bands and hard rock bands, and the kind of music that I really love is like real like hard rock, but rock and roll, but also like the hardcore. And it's not hardcore like EDM hardcore, but it's like heavy metal hardcore. And what I love about the hardcore mentality, and there are some really cool documentaries about this on YouTube, you should watch it. It's more or less like take no bullshit, don't compromise, and don't be afraid to take a helping hand. Right? These three things always guided me in some way through my career, because it always drives you in asking the question why. So take no bullshit is about asking yourself, why is this happening? Right? So, okay, you want to make a restoration. Here's the bonding. Okay, why this bonding? Yeah, because it's in the drawer. No, that's not the reason. There should be a bigger reason why we should use this bonding in this specific case. So now I have like 4 or 5 different brands of bondings in my drawer and my dental clinic, because I know there's indications for all of them in different situations. Same goes with composites, right? Here's composite. Yeah, so what kind of composite is it? Yeah, it's like a micro hybrid. But why should we use this in this case? Yeah, because it's in the drawer. No, that's not the answer. Why should we use this material in this specific situation? And the same goes with patients. Okay, I have 5 cavities. Okay, why are these cavities there? Like, asking yourself the question why drives you to this kind of matter, I guess. Right? Because then you find out that the more you ask yourself why, first of all, you gain a lot of knowledge. That's always very nice, and it drives you to an education, because education helps you in answering these questions. It also drives you to a state of mind in where you realize that the more you learn, the more you tend to know, the more you realize that you know nothing at all, right? I'm perfectly aware that there's a lot of stuff that I do know nothing about. And that's okay. I respect that, right? So that's why I search for people that can do that stuff better than me. And then you have this concept of collective intelligence, which is very strong and powerful within healthcare. And to this day, I learn a lot of stuff by just asking the question, why? Why is this happening? And yeah, that's why I love about dentistry, because there's so much stuff to learn and to explore. And every time I think, okay, now I got everything under control, I'm perfectly able to treat a very complex case and do the implants, the ortho, the prosto, the perio. I can do it all myself. And still I find stuff and I think, oh, I do not know nothing about this matter. That's really cool. Yeah.
Indeed. I think what's also important to bring is ego and the concept of ego, because I believe that like asking yourself the question why is a very powerful thing if you know how to use it, because every time you ask yourself why, as you said, you understand what you don't know. And understanding that you don't know something hurts, because you spend so many years doing this thing. You know, you are like, I'm just like, I reached this level, like I'm almost there. And then like a big wave of why hits you in the face, and you're like, all my like ego crashes. And there's also like that concept of like leaving your ego in the door and then entering the room, you know, like, so you just come in with a very open mindset of like just accepting things. And I also think like why I personally also constantly like to self-reflect and journal and etc. It's because like once all the superficial layers are out and you touch the flesh, then like things get hurt, but you also like you feel it like deep in your bones that like you are actually getting there, and the actual fulfillment and satisfaction from genuinely knowing why I do this, why I use this material, why this patient is different than the other one with the same number of cavities. You know, like all of those things give you this invisible power of distinguishing and like just going to another level. And it's also very nice to see how like for you personally, this ISPFD is a personal checkpoint. And this is every 3 years you just, go back in contact with yourself to see where you are, and it's your measure of your progress. And also just to put things in a timeline. I know you mentioned that your father is a dentist, and obviously that means you also had some contact, or you actually saw that dentistry was not a new word for you. So if you put like dentistry on a long chronological spectrum, was this holistic approach always there and we lost it and then we are trying to gain it back? Or is it something new that we are trying to bring to the table?
Oh, no. This is 1,000 years old. Like, we should have listened. That's the whole point, right? The Chinese medical care is foundation is on holistic healthcare. That's why you have the difference in Eastern healthcare and Western healthcare. There's a really cool article about it. It's about integrated medicine. So the way we try to approach healthcare now is from an integrated way. And that means that on the one hand, you have like Western medicine, which is like, okay, we have composite A and B, let's research which is better, right? And on the other hand, you have like the Chinese, the Eastern way of thinking in healthcare, where you say, okay, there's a big problem here, but there's a whole body attached to it, right? So we have to look at the whole body before we can determine what the actual problem is. And somewhere in between is integrated healthcare. So that means that you are using materials and techniques that are proven, but never forget that it's a small part within a bigger system. And that's the way I think we should look at things. And I want to add something to your previous question. I think it defines the big difference in like what we try to do with dentistry and how we should approach dentistry within like our group, the younger groups, instead of how it was probably before. So one big thing that we see in every department in healthcare is that the dentist or the doctor, they want to be the top monkey. They want to be right on the biggest stage of the world, and it drives in some kind of a competition, right? And this drive of always going there, it's something that will never end, and it's a game you cannot win because the game will never end unless you yourself tell you to self, okay, now stop with this game, right? I always approach this as my guitar collection. So when I was playing guitar when I was like 16 years old, I had this Epiphone Les Paul guitar, and I was feeling like Slash from Guns N' Roses, man. And I mean, it looked the same, and it's a Korean guitar, and I was playing it. It even sounded a bit like the same, and I said, hey man, this is perfect. And there's always this Gibson Les Paul, which is like the summum of guitar playing, of like guitars. And I always had this, okay, one day I will have a Gibson Les Paul. This was just my dream. I had this magazine, these pictures, these posters about this Gibson Les Paul, right? And at one time I bought a Gibson Les Paul, and I always said, how good can a Gibson actually be? And then you play a Gibson and say, yeah, this is something different, man. And then you have your first, like, your low-level entry Gibson Les Paul, and they say, this guitar is so good, it's so much better than the previous one. Like, and then of course there's the USA standard one, which is just a little grade higher. And then said, how good can that be? And then you're actually playing these guitars, so yeah, this is way better. And then there's the custom shop version one, right? And then so this guitar is already so good. How much better can it actually get? And then you go to the custom shop, and then you go to the vintage. And then at one point you're not only having like one guitar, but you have over 50. And every time I think, so now my collection is like fully under control. I have all the masterpieces, all the guitars I could ever wish for as a kid. And every time I say, now I'm done, I'm finished, right? My guitar collection is finished, it's perfect. And there's always this thing coming by and I say, damn it. And I need that as well. And the same goes with your knowledge in dentistry, because at one point you say, no, I'm a GP now, so how difficult is ortho? And then you learn about ortho. So hey, this is because it opens more doors. How difficult can implantology be? And then you go into implants, and it grows. Your collection of knowledge actually grows. And every time you think, now I'm perfectly comfortable, right? It's good, and I have everything under control. And then you learn about something, or you see a lecture from somebody that twists everything around, and then you have to learn that as well, and it gets really addictive. And I think the main message I want to give people is enjoy that, enjoy the ride, because eventually, like, if I don't enjoy my collection, there's no purpose in having a guitar collection at all, right? And that's, I think, the big part we try to change for people. Say, hey, enjoy your knowledge. Enjoy that moment. Enjoy what you are doing. Like, sharing cases is not about showing that you are the best one there. It's not about showing that you are better than the others. No, it's about, hey, this is what I made. What do you guys think of it, right? Please comment on it. Please comment on it, like, with respect, but also honestly, because then you can learn. And the nice thing about healthcare and dentistry is that we think we know a lot of, but actually we don't know that lot of. We don't know a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that to be explored and to be researched. And with that in mind, I think having respect in dentistry and general healthcare as healthcare providers is something that should be there more often. Miguel Ortiz had a really strong point in a lecture once, actually in Boston, he was telling this. He said, so in dentistry, like everybody disagrees, always, right? And that's a beautiful thing, because in the end of the day, as long as we talk about it at a meeting, in a bar, online, during a Zoom discussion, as long as we talk about it and we are discussing it, everybody wins, right? Because we are talking about it and we try to get some kind of a consensus. Okay, let's do it this way. And this is the way it should be. And one thing that I think is why this is really important is because from a society point of view, we are going the total opposite direction. We are going to a way more individualized kind of society instead of, okay, let's talk about it together, right? So I think that's really important to do so. And while enjoying this and while discussing this during meetings, and that's why everybody should go to dental meetings to discuss this kind of matter, enjoy it and enjoy it together. And that's why we get in a bus with flamethrowers. It's just to enjoy the industry together. That's basically what we do. I think that's really nice.
I totally agree. What that reminds me of is recently I read the book. It's called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Naval Ravikant is an Indian-based American angel investor. And he has like this tweeting thread. It's actually about, let's say, how to get rich without getting lucky. That's, let's say, the clickbait name of it. But what he actually conveys in there is genuinely important. And he talks about how it's crucial to know your foundations. And one of those foundations is the concept in economics. It's called zero-sum game or a positive-sum game. Zero-sum game is, as you mentioned, for instance, if we are in competition, if I am the first, you have to be the second. Or for you to be the first, I have to go down, which is a zero-sum game. Versus the last thing that you mentioned, where like you encourage collaboration and discussion and a debate and everything like that. It's a positive-sum game because at the end of the day, everyone is in the plus. Like in that game, even though your opinion is not valued or it's probably not 100% correct, you are still the one winning because you brought up that topic. You now gain some knowledge, and for the other person, they now know the counter arguments that they may encounter when they express their opinion, etc., etc. So I think, this like calling it really like a positive sum game, and obviously there are some figures that are above and below, the ones that have more knowledge, better cases, weirder patients, etc., etc. But as long as like it's all together to share on the table, that's when like everybody wins, as you also mentioned previously. And like the next thing that I want to ask is like, as you said, like dentistry is so nuanced. You have GP, ortho, prosto, periodontics, like surgery, oral, and maxillological, maxillofacial, like all of those things. And this is just, it also shows how as people, we wear different caps every hour. Let's say in the morning, you may be like the grumpy one who woke up versus at night, you're the happy one going to sleep. And during the day, you are a dentist. And then in the evening, you pick one thing from your guitar collection, you start playing. Now you're like rock fan, and then you are also a father. You're also, let's say, a boyfriend, a husband, I don't know, a son, etc. Like there are so many identities and caps that we put on. And like, does this also help you in your professional life, in the sense that I can sense that how you are very self-aware and you always try to go deeper and to not get satisfied by the first answer that you read. Also, like yesterday, I actually heard the quote. It said that you understand that you haven't done enough reading if you always agree with the last book that you read. So the question is that with all those identities that you have and all those things that you go to, how does one aspect of your life help another, and how do you feel yourself changing and evolving in this complex way?
It's a really good question, and I think the most people think of it in a really complicated way. But I do think the answer is pretty simple, and it's just be yourself and be authentic, right? I think that's the main part. So it's when you are. So let me give you this example. When I was in my sorority in Nijmegen, like there, I met some really lovely guys, which are my friends. But I always had to fight to be around these guys. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I always had to fight to be in the surrounding of some people, right? And then because I was this hard work guy, and then you try to live up to the standard of the sorority's image, right? And everybody does the same thing, and everybody tells each other that it's awesome to be this way. And then at one point you're walking around in a suit with a tie and being this sorority guy. And it's not that I'm not that guy, but it's that I was, I think, behaving as a guy that is not really me. So I noticed this when I was during the time I was going to a festival together with a few bandmates of mine. And then I was going in this group, which are all heavy metal heads. And these guys who were just walking around in black t-shirts with Metallica and Iron Maiden on it. And I had to do zero efforts to be around these guys. So now you have two groups of people. In one group of people, you have to work really hard. So you're feeling you have to work to be around these guys and to live up. And you're saying and speaking in such a way that you try to live up to the image that is created by this group. And in the other group, you're just coming in. And the first thing you think of is, okay, I want to be friends with you guys. And there's no effort at all to make that happen. So then it's really natural behavior. And when I noticed that, I started to just let it go, and to make sure that even if you let it go, you eventually will surround yourself with the people that more or less think and act or do the same way you do. And I think that's how Karma got together in the first place, and I think that's one of the reasons why we still exist. Because everybody around us says, no, I saw you guys were going to do this, and I really respect it. It's everybody suspected us to go out of each other with heavy fighting within the first year. And still, after almost 4 years, we are together, and it never, like the feeling and the way we interact with each other never has been better. And I think that is because we are surrounding ourselves with the people that we don't have to spend any effort to being surrounded by. And that means sometimes that you have to let go of people and to let go of friends, and which doesn't mean that it's not a good friend, but it's just different, right? And that's something that I've been doing for quite a while now, and that means that everybody surrounding you, like your family, your kids. I mean, your family is you don't have to spend any effort being around those people, right? And when your friends and your colleagues and your practice, all these people are just in the way you are and interact, then it takes you zero effort to be around these people. And that's the foundation, I guess. Because then you don't have to work as hard, because people understand you and you understand the people. And then it's easy to switch hats, because that sometimes can be really different or very difficult. And if you have to switch hats, so I have to be a husband and a father at home, and then like 5 minutes later I have to be a guy, like a dentist sitting behind a computer that gives a podcast, right? And then like in 1 hour I have to go to the supermarket to do groceries, and then I have to another meeting. So I'm switching hats all day, which is fine as long as it's just me sitting here. So this is just me sitting here. I'm just this dentist from the Netherlands. This is what I do. If people like it, fine, welcome. If people don't like it, it's also fine. Like, sure, it's your opinion, and I respect that. I think that's the way to operate.
That's a very nice and good message. Like, it's also like one of those things that, like internally we know we should be ourselves, but then it just, as you said, sometimes you're just caught up in the loop and you're like, is this even me? Or like, why I feel like I feel drained rather than more energized from the interactions that I have or from the work that I do, etc., etc. And I think like quitting in that sense, quitting the right people, the job, quitting in a sense, in this case, let's say the wrong people, but obviously it's not the people that are wrong, but the environment. And like making a change also takes a lot of courage. And also doing that is a very, very brilliant indication of your personal growth and your journey, and also your ability to accept your comfort zone and also to go out of it. And just also going back to this mindset related to like healthcare and dentistry, the next question that I wanted to ask was about education. I know you said that during your dental school, at least the first few years, you were not, let's say, that admiring of the discipline that you were studying. And what would you consider to be the shortcoming of current dental education? And how do you think this new concept should be integrated and like you just put the seeds of those thoughts in front of emerging and graduating dentists?
Yeah, I think this all has to do with inspiration. Like I needed a moment in time where people inspired me to eventually go the path that I went. And I think this needs to be in dental education as well at the universities, because this is the fun part. I remember having an ortho case at one point, and the way I was studying is that I always have to draw lines and arrows. Basically asking myself the questions why. Okay, so if this, then like a question mark, arrow, then this happens. This is how I was studying, and it's the only way for me to understand the matter. So I had this amazing collection of summaries. And I remember this case coming by, and I remember I do have this somewhere in the summary, but I don't know what to do now. So I went into my books of dental school, my summaries again, so everybody's always complaining about we never learned this at dental school, right? But when I'm going through my summaries, say, hey, it's right there. It always has been right there. That's my mindset, and that at that specific point in time wasn't, probably not able to capture this knowledge or to connect the dots, right? And I think inspiration has a lot to do with it. So put inspirational people at dental schools, right? Actually, we have this conversation with the university right now in the Netherlands, and they at one point they asked me to do a lecture, and I went there. It was a great evening. I had a lot of fun. And then they asked, we don't have any money. How can we do this in the program? So I don't want any money, right? If you ask me to come 4 times or 8 times or a few times to the university to give a lecture for students, if that only contributes like a very little bit, I'm more than happy to do so. I'm even willing to pay for that stuff, right? And with me, I know there are a lot of people that have the same thing. I think that's something that universities can do, just invite inspiring people to lecture at universities. But this is the thing that universities have to do. They have to let go of their ego. They have to let go of their way of thinking and saying this is the only way of thinking. Which is why I think dental schools are cut loose from dental medical profession in general, right? Because you have the medical professions and then you have dentistry. So Miguel told us beautifully. He said, so let's cut the mouth. You can have the mouth, and we go further with the rest. And I think a lot of has to do with, well, first of all, our symptomatical view on the mouth and the way we treat it. So it's not the holistic healthcare way of thinking, but it's also the way we are teaching is okay, if this problem happens, this is you have to do. It's like a very pragmatic and very practical way of education. While my belief is that universities should ask every question that comes into mind and test it and talk about it and discuss it. Because that's exploring boundaries. That's, I think, what universities should do, exploring the boundaries and doing research and all this matter that we do know nothing about, and not preaching this is the only way. No, there are several ways to go there, right? And you should invite the people that can elaborate and lecture about all these different kind of ways to go there in the first place. And if that challenges all the beliefs that are teach at the university, that's perfect. If the students are sitting in a room and they say, now I have no idea what to do, I have no idea what to believe, because what this guy is telling me is completely the opposite as what all my teachers are telling me for the last 4 years, that's perfect, because that drives to one very important thing, and that's questioning. Why? What are the good things from this lecture? What are the good things from that lecture? And this is when you are building your way of knowledge, and you say, okay, this is how I believe dentistry should be. Right? Because sometimes There are good things in one person. Sometimes there's good things in the other person. Let's get the stuff that I think is good, put them together, and that's my way of dentistry. And that's how I believe education should be provided, and not only this pragmatic, mechanical way of teaching. So I think that can be changed. And I also think a lot of good guys are stood up and doing this stuff. Like Marco Gesnicht in Groningen is doing a beautiful job. Marcus Blatz in Pennsylvania is doing a beautiful job. These guys are putting this to the next level.
Yeah, I think this ties back to the time constraint topic that we mentioned at the beginning of this also episode, that at the end of the day, inviting people, challenging students, exploring the boundaries takes time. And then at the end of the day, like, you just want the student batch to get out after 6 years and bring in the new ones and cost develop, because as you said, there is increasing demand from the patient side and not enough dentists, etc. But it's like this compromise between like the personal quest for why and taking the foundational pragmatical bits and pieces of knowledge and putting it together to put yourself in a very unique position in the.
Yeah, and it drives to the first question that we started the podcast with. Like the first thing is that if you want to do this right, if you want to do the dentistry right, you need balls to do this, right? Because everybody is telling you to do otherwise, and you just have to say, okay, now I'm going to do this my way, right? I want to hear every side of the story and making my version of the truth of this, right? Because I heard every story. This is the reason why I don't believe in going to one occlusal school. Like, if you follow one course, like, that's the way to treat every patient. No, that's not true. Like, every patient demands of a different way of thinking, like a different way of using materials, a different way of putting the restorations on, a different way of even treating. So sometimes you don't even want to treat it, right? One school says, based on this questionnaire, you have to do this and this and this and this and this. But sometimes you should not touch this patient. And I think that's the whole thing. And it takes you also balls to patient. It takes balls to say no to a patient. This top shot guy comes in, like literally parking the Lamborghini on the front porch of your dental clinic. He's walking in, and you think, there we go, right? There's a high profile patient. We can do the beautiful ceramics with the best technician in the world, and I'm looking forward to do this. And then you're doing your questionnaires and you're doing your diagnostics, and you just say, no, I'm not going to do this, right? So you're leaving the money aside and say, no, I don't want to do this. And even if all the questionnaires and the anamnesis are gearing up, you say, no, like, they're telling me I can do this, but every fiber of your body says, don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't do it. You will regret it for the rest of your life. Because your gut feeling, and the gut feeling is something that you create and you feed with new knowledge, and it's very, very powerful. Just sometimes you need the balls to say, I'm not going to do it. And then this person is looking at you, so why? Because some people told me I have to be at your place because you're doing the best. I said, yeah, but we are just not the same people. Like, we come back to the same discussion we had with the sorority and the heavy metal group. No, it's just, you are not just my kind of person. We should not do this together, because you are going into a phase and you're going to treatments that are very demanding in a physical way, in a psychological way, in a financial way for as well the patient, as your whole team, as you. And as soon as you have the gut feeling, so no, don't do it. Please don't do it. But that takes balls. It takes balls to do so, right? And that's the thing that we try to provide for people, because it's easier to all together to grow some balls than just do it individually.
That's true. That's very correct. And I think it also ties back to what you said also in the beginning of the episode, that at the end of the day, you treat humans. You are not treating a mouse or a teeth, or you're treating like a human body with the soul, with the thoughts, with the energy, and etc. And like also with the concept of actually that karma and everything. Like, it's just not that like a man-made object comes in and you fix it and you give it away, but it's really like it has much many more layers inside it than just the treatment that you were taught to do. And we also, like, during this podcast, we discussed about integrated medicine, about the importance of dental meetings, about the importance of sharing cases, being interdisciplinary, talking to other doctors from other healthcare sectors, trying to understand all of those interconnectedness. And you mentioned that, like, you feel like things like AI bots or the technology, the place that we are going will make this integration easier. I want to, like, delve on that and just, like, understand why you think that's the way and how do you think it will actually happen?
Because it helps with understanding. Like, for instance, the AI bot that you guys are providing with radiographs, right? So it shows you everything that's on a radiograph. Well, first of all, like, AI is way more predictable and precise than the human eye and the human body. So when I look at an X-ray in the morning and in the afternoon and in the evening, there is quite a chance that I will do a different diagnosis on that X-ray on those 3 different times on a day, right? Computers don't have that problem. It helps you, it assists you in doing this kind of procedure. So this is only from a diagnostical point of view. So one of the things that we are implementing in the clinic for quite a while now is creating this 3D dental avatar, which means that you are creating a full 3D head of a patient, and you have, like, the extraoral scan, the intraoral scan, you're putting a CBCT on that with the 4D motion, and this has all been done automatically. So and it even proposes sometimes, like, a smile design or all that kind of stuff. So when I'm looking now, for like 4 years ago, when we were starting with this, it took you like a few hours to do so, to create this avatar, which is very handy because it helps you in your treatments, in your planning, etc. Now with AI, this only takes 4 or 5 minutes, and it's been done totally automatic. So you can actually answer an email while this other computers is just calculating and thinking, right? And it's put it together even more precise than we could do it manually. And this is just a very small example of the stuff that will be provided and which is sometimes already there in helping us to be more efficient, right? Efficiency is, I think, the biggest benefit of dental technology. And not only because that saves time to do more procedures, which is like the basic understanding, I guess, from a lot of people. But for me, it's more about gaining time to spend more time to my patients. And I love that some computer is just calculating some bits together on the left, and then I'm actually able to speak with somebody and have some time and ask questions about their personal life, which is very important when it comes to determining a good treatment plan. You have to know some stuff about your patients. I always Google them, actually. I do some serious detective research about them. I want to know their jobs. I want to know if they're married. I want to know where they're living. I want to know everything about them. Because it says something about lifestyle and how they are approaching life and how they approach their body sometimes. So I know if somebody is working 80 hours a week, then it's a different body and a different lifestyle and a different metabolism than somebody that is like a pro surfer, right? And just lying on the beach all day. That's totally different. But this is stuff that I want to know from people. So I need time to ask them, and I need time to spend with them. So AI technology is definitely, for me, it is definitely helping to gain more time to be there for people.
Yeah, also, like, throughout, just also to put and like to kind of do a recap, you said that we started with the problem of time and the time constraint and the fact that you cannot, because of the fixed pricing system, for instance, in Netherlands, etc., you strive to do as many more procedures and you don't have time to build a human connection. Versus if there is a third-party tool that does all the manual, automatic, repetitive things, and it buys you time to talk to someone. And at the end of the day, you will still spend the 2 hours with the patient, but the efficiency, like the internal quality of your treatment, is much more higher because you could now build something with it. And also, yeah, just give me your opinion, sure.
No, but also approaches from a management point of view, which is, I think, even more important, but not that much spoken of. So we always, in dentistry, approach AI from the treatment planning kind of vibe, right? just imagine the following, that if a patient calls to your office, getting an AI bot on the phone for planning, for making an appointment, there's no human even involved in that, right? If somebody has questions about the treatment, the AI bot will give the right answer about, like, what about my antibiotics, right? How much time should I take them? And it's on the paper, but if they call you, right, and which happens all the day. So if I look at the ladies now sitting behind the desk with a telephone in their hands, I guess 95% of the questions can be answered by an AI bot, and even better than the person sitting behind the desk. Because sometimes 3 people, they give different answers, right? Which can also be implemented differently by the patient. So when you have one consistent AI bot that is giving the right information to the right people at the right time, all logging this within your patient monitoring system, then that means, and this is a question that I got from the Dental Assistant Society, where I have to lecture in November. So will the dental assistant be gone in a few years? I said, no, hell no. No, it will be even nicer to work as a dental assistant, because you don't have to do the stuff that you really hate in the profession. This will all be taken care of so when it comes to complaints, questions about like about a bill or invoice or all that kind of stuff. That this can all be done automatically, and that means that if they don't have to do this kind of stuff, they have their hands free to build this human connection with a patient. And that's the part that I think will be beautiful about it. And we are implementing this more and more and more in the clinic, and we see that they actually are getting more time to spend with patients. Like the way I see it is that if somebody's sitting behind the desk in the waiting room, like, her only daily task should be, is every patient sitting in this room happy? Right? If somebody has to wait 15 minutes because some treatment is taking longer than expected, then they should bring this person a cup of coffee, right? They cannot do that when they're sitting behind the phone asking questions and of answering questions about bills and everything. So I think if all these tools and all this technology make sure that we as healthcare providers are actually more able to provide healthcare, I think that's beautiful.
Indeed. And just to top it all, like, quick one, the product that you actually mentioned is called Dentaverse IQ. Dentaverse IQ is a software tool that's now being built by our team. It involves patient treatment intelligence system, automatic appointment scheduling, virtual assistant that, according to the custom knowledge database of the patient profile and also the medical information, will give the correct answers to the patients that will ask questions about their treatment or about the next appointment, etc. And also what you mentioned was the AI dental diagnostics tool that we also develop in collaboration with Cranial Catch. And that's a tool that allows bite-wing, panoramic X-rays and cephalometric scans, and it draws a radiography on top of them, and it provides an annotated tooth and teeth initial treatment planning, showing the diseases in a color-coded fashion. And all this information is available to you like under 2-3 minutes. And this is a better way of communication with your patients. And for those who would like to know more about the Dentaverse IQ, you can just feel free to contact the Dentaverse team across all our social media platforms. And obviously with those people as well, we're here also constantly in progress. And actually Jasper is one of the people that does the beta testing of the product. And that's why this is the personal experience that Jasper is now sharing. And it's, as I said, it's what we are trying to do is to remove all the repetition and management and manual things and try to give dentists like more power through the connection, through the knowledge, and through what makes them unique in their case. And that's also the reason I love personally hosting this podcast, because every time with every new speaker, I personally learn more, and I understand how there are so many different personas in dental field, and how there is almost every time something to learn from each one of them. And first of all, thank you, Jasper, for this conversation. I think it's been wonderful, and I personally learned a lot. We have touched the dentistry from a totally different perspective, We've gone a little bit into philosophy. We've described and quoted René Descartes and some also influential dentists around the world, etc. We tried to bring some new concepts and different ways of thinking, but also tying it back to the core and foundational dentistry that you all professionals practice, and we as patients are always thankful for the beautiful and healthy smile that we can get. And one last question, the traditional question that I usually like to close my episode. It's a personal question to you, and that is, what is one book, song, or quote that has had a profound impact on you, and why do you think it resonated so deeply?
Good. Yeah, that's simple answer actually is the book Start With Why from Simon Sinek.
Perfect. That Simon Sinek is actually one of my favorite authors. I like that guy. He's just way too good. And okay, the next question, I think this was too easy. The next one is about the documentaries that you mentioned. Please give advice to people about the documentaries that you mentioned on YouTube and how they help you with the philosophy of hard rock, etc. What they taught you.
There's so many good ones. You should watch the one from Noisy on YouTube about New York straight edge hardcore. So what I really love about this documentary, and especially this way of music, is so New York straight edge hardcore is one of the most heavy metal music around, right? It's really hard, it's really profound. But what I really love about that specific vibe is that it was created in a time in New York where New York was just not the best place to live. There was a lot of prostitutes, there was a lot of drug abuse, a lot of crime, violence. And that made the punk scene, the punk rock scene, arise. But the punk was always about the other guys doing us wrong, right? So you address the problem, say, yeah, it's your fault, and they also always say fuck the motherfuckers, and it's not bringing solutions. It's addressing the problem, but it's not bringing solutions. New York hardcore was about finding those solutions. Okay, so we know the problem. How are we actually going to solve it? Don't throw bricks to the building, get in the building and change it for yourself. And that's why I love this. So all these guys, when these hardcore bands from New York arise, they started wearing white shirts instead of black ones, because they said, no, we're not the problem, we are the solution. So they all start reading books about philosophers. They were going vegan. They didn't smoke. They didn't drink. They didn't use drugs. They really wanted to be there in that moment to say, no, we're going to solve this. We know the problem. Everybody knows the problem, but let's solve it. But do it yourself. Don't point your finger to anybody else. But do it yourself. And I think this attitude, and it's called PMA. It's called positive mental attitude. So a lot of these verbs are coming a lot of times in their music. And I think it was the Gorilla Biscuits that invented the PMA. I believe it's even 1989, which is a long time ago. But still, this mindset and this lessons from this specific genre is very, very up to date. There has never been any musical group, so for musical genre, that brought the most artists, philosophers, entrepreneurs, artists as New York straight edge hardcore. And the only reason I believe why that is because of this PMA. It's positive mental attitude, right? If you want something to be changed for the better, go in there, change it yourself. That's how we approach education as well. We know what's wrong with education in the industry, so let's do it ourselves, right? That's why we go to universities with a bus with flamethrowers. So we see people graduating from dental college, and we see they have the idea of, okay, I'm finished now. I'm a dentist. I don't have to do any more education. Hell no, you have to start your education from day one, right? How do we change this? Take a bus with flamethrowers, go to universities, park it up front. Don't ask anybody for permission. You just park the bus there. You put 30 students in that bus, and after that same night, people go out and say, hey, I have to follow education. That's how you change stuff. Go out there and do it yourself. So when it comes to the documentary and this kind of music, this is something that I learned a lot of. This is how we approach this kind of stuff. Just go in there, do it yourself.
Thank you, Jasper. Thank you for your time. Thank you for ending on this very high note.
Welcome. What an words. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Dentaverse Beyond the Brush. Remember, the future of dentistry is brighter when we explore together, so continue to floss your mind and expand your knowledge. To stay updated, follow our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your colleagues. This was your host, Leyla Ibrahimli, reminding you to bite down on curiosity and keep smiling until next time.